Stacy's just finishing off, and then she'll talk. 1, 2. Tired. Okay. Yeah, she's gonna talk.
We've been listening to The Banks of Green Willow by George Butterworth, played by the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by Grant Llewellyn. The time right now is 31 minutes past 8, and joining me in the studio, as it's a Thursday, is film critic Howard Elias. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Today we are definitely, or I am, not you, I'm definitely on my Howard for Film Facebook Live. I said last week I was, but by accident I put it on my page rather than on my film page.
Okay, you'll transfer it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, for now, we're okay. Yes?
Now we're okay. As long as the internet connection holds out, we're okay.
All right, so 2 films. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's talk about the rom-com first, Love, Simon.
Okay.
Which opens today. Both these films open today. So we'll talk about Love, Simon first. Now let's turn the Wayback Clock to the mid-1980s when you were just a mere teenager. Why are you laughing? You mean you weren't a teenager back in the 80s?
No, by then I was...
You're right, exactly.
Yeah,
I was
my
being...
20s.
Yes, but shh, we won't tell people that. We want people to think you're younger than you are. So if you remember those...
Well, I do look it.
Yeah, right. Well, that's why you're on the radio, right?
Please, just...
Anyhow. Okay. So, but you probably remember films like 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club?
No.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh, I might have seen that.
Actually, I like that one. I didn't really like the other two. But these were films by director John Hughes that really spoke to the teenagers of that generation. So, yes, and like you, I was not a teenager in the mid-1980s. I had passed that point in my life. But I know for kids that were younger than me, they said these films really spoke to them. And today they hold up pretty well. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, as I said, I enjoy that film. I saw it a few years ago again. I enjoy it. So we have a film, Love, Simon, is in this vein. This is a film that's speaking to teenagers of today with a little bit of a twist. It's a gay rom-com. So we've had gay rom-coms before, but this is a film. This is a mainstream film where the central character is gay, and we've never had that before. We've had many art house films where characters are gay, but we've never had a mainstream film, especially a rom-com, where the main character is gay. So this is a bit of a groundbreaking film made by 20th Century Fox. So it's a sort of a big deal in that regard. So a lot of people are cheering this film. Now the story is based on the novel called Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by a woman by the name of Becky Albertalli. I've never read the book. Have you heard of it? I've never even heard of the book, but apparently kids are loving this book. And it tells the story of a young man named Simon Spear, played by Nick Robinson, who was in Jurassic World, and I think he's in the new Jurassic sequel that's coming up. He's a popular high school senior who lives in a leafy Atlanta suburb, along with his picture frame model parents, Emily and Jack. If I had parents that good looking, my God. They're played by Jennifer Gardner and Josh Duhamel, and his aspiring chef younger sister by the name of Nora. Now, everything in Simon's life seems perfect, though he's keeping this huge secret inside. He's gay, and he hasn't told anybody. He hasn't come out. Now, one day, after a fellow student in his perfectly diverse school, except for being LGBTQI, IQ, QR, whatever. Apparently, there's only one gay kid in this whole school. So after a fellow student posts on the school's e-bulletin board, that he's struggling with a similar secret to Simon, Simon begins an anonymous correspondence with this stranger, sharing his true feelings for the first time in his life, while at the same time trying to figure out who this mystery person is. Now, Simon's carefully managed world starts to fall apart when his arch nemesis, Martin, stumbles upon this email correspondence and threatens to out Simon to the school unless Simon fixes him up on a date with his friend, Abby. So we have kids coming out or dealing with coming out. We have kids dealing with being outed. Yeah, so these are very topical issues these days. Now, it's been a while since I was in high school, so perhaps I don't remember what it was like. But I'm pretty sure it was not like Simon's experience. Now, as Simon says in a voiceover at the start of the film, he is just like us. But I don't recall hopping into the SUV that my parents bought me for my birthday. I don't recall picking up my 3 besties and swinging over to the neighborhood drive-thru for a round of iced coffees before heading off to school. My school experience was not like that. And at the risk of sounding like my father, I walked to school through the snow. It was this high. Right? Didn't your father ever tell you that? Right? Every day. And I barely made it to homeroom on time. So clearly Simon's experience and my experience are 2 different things. Now, we surely had gay classmates, but we didn't know it because everybody was in the closet back then. Now, I remember as I was watching this film, I remember when my first contemporary came out. When it was huge news. So-and-so's come out, and like everybody was talking about it. Today, I know like some of my friends' kids have come out, and it's like, yeah, okay. It's no big deal. So I'm sort of at a loss of why everybody is making such a fuss about this film. Like I can appreciate that they are. They're saying, wow, this is a groundbreaking film. But you know what? We've had TV shows for 15 years dealing with gay characters and gay romances and inclusion. And look, you have a talk show host who wins an Emmy every year, and she's a lesbian. So what's the big deal? So my feeling is this movie is about 15 years too late. If it would have come out in the early 2000s, I go, wow. But in 2018, I go, okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, it takes that long to get a film made.
Well, and you know what? Many people are saying, okay, so this film's not perfect, but maybe this is going to be the first of more such films. Okay, if that's true, I'm happy to hear that. But you know what? For a first film, I don't think it's a great film. Some people are saying, well, it's a first film. Let's be happy it's the first film. I go, okay, great. I'm happy it's the first film, but it's not a great first film. What I didn't like is that Simon and his world are polished to perfection. And you know what? And I think this was their attempt, the writer's attempt and Fox's attempt to make this accessible to everyone. And it seems that if you want to be a gay character who's complicated, you've got to be in an art house film. If you're going to be in a mainstream film, you have to be perfect. And see, this I didn't like, right? Because nobody's perfect. Well, I'm perfect, but nobody else is perfect. So okay. And you know what? I used to say, I appreciate that many people are in love with this film. I'm not one of them. I didn't hate the film. I just am not jumping up and down and being excited about it. I did like some of the performances. Tony Hale, who is probably best known for TV's Arrested Development and the TV show Veep. He plays the school's tragically unhip vice principal. He was quite funny. He tries to be cool, but he's really not cool. So I liked his performance. And former Saturday Night Live writer Natasha Rothwell, she plays the school's no-nonsense drama teacher. And she clearly has a life outside of the school that she alludes to that's a little bit kinky. And so that was quite funny. I thought those 2 characters were funny. Everybody else was fine, but again, just too safe, and I thought the ending is just not realistic. Apparently the book deals with the ending. It's the same ending in the book, but the book deals with it better than the movie does. To me, the movie, it just felt unearned. So I don't know. And the other thing is, he's got this best friend, Leia, who doesn't know that he's gay. And I think, come on. First of all, if it's your best friend, you tell your best friend everything. But even if you don't tell your best friend, if this person is your best friend knows everything, right? Otherwise, they're not your best friend. So I didn't like that. Now, as I was coming out of the cinema when I saw it a couple of weeks ago, one of my friends said, "Now gay people have their own John Hughes film." Okay, great. Now they have their own John Hughes film. Good. I just wish that the next film is going to be more challenging, more realistic. So that's my take on this film. You know what? You'll go see it. You're going to like it. For me, it didn't wow me. So sorry, I'm the Grinch that stole Christmas today.
Okay. Next.
Next up is a German film called In the Fade aus dem Nichts, starring Diane, I can't remember her name, and I have it written down too, Diane Kruger, who is in a lot of, she's also in English language films because she was apparently a model before she was an actress. And her English...
She was in a series called The Bridge.
That's right, she was in The Bridge.
Yeah.
And her English is amazing. I mean, she speaks with an American accent. I mean, she's...
You could detect a
slight
little something not right.
But
not 100% authentic.
But she is a very good actress. In fact, she won the Best Actress Award at Cannes last year for this film. So, if you're a fan of Diane Kruger, you might want to go see this film. Now, in case you haven't heard, neo-Nazis are in the news again. Now, not just in America, where they're very nice people, or nice people too, as somebody has said, but all across Europe. Now, the resurgence of what was, up until very recently, a fringe movement for many years, it forms the backdrop for this film by German-Turkish filmmaker Fatih Akin. Now, it's presented in The Fade, is presented in 3 parts. It tells the fictional story of Katya Sekersky, I'm probably mispronouncing it, it's a Turkish name, played by Dan Kruger. And she's a German woman who lives in Hamburg. Now, very interestingly, Fatih Akin comes from Hamburg, and most of his films are filmed in Hamburg, and he's of Turkish descent, and this is a film of Turkish people, so this is something that's very near and dear to his heart. So she lives in Hamburg with her Kurdish husband Nuri and their 5-year-old son Rocco. Now, as the film opens, we see handheld video of Katya and Nuri getting married in a prison where Nuri is housed after being busted for drug trafficking. And now, 5+ years later, Nuri runs a respectable tax consulting business / translation service / travel agency in the heart of the city's Turkish community, and Katya is his bookkeeper. And they seem to be living the German dream. They've turned their lives around. They have a lovely child. They seem very happy. Live in a very nice house, very middle class existence, very quiet. He's got a respectable business. She's working. Everybody seems good. But her life just gets toppled in an instant when a bomb goes off in front of Nuri's shop front, killing Nuri and Rocco. Yeah, you look shocked. Now, yeah, very sad. Now the police, in the midst of all this grief and chaos, Katya has to deal with the police who think that the attack was related to Nuri's drug dealing past. But she says, nope, he put that behind him. He was a respectable man. Of course, the police are thinking the typical things, oh, he's a Muslim, or, oh, he was a drug dealer. And she's going, no, it was not that at all. She thinks it was neo-Nazis who did it. And it turns out she's right, that there were a couple of neo-Nazis who didn't like that he was Turkish, a Muslim, whatever. Now, in the midst of trying to piece her life back together again, she now has to face her family's killers in court, only to discover that sometimes you have to take justice in your own hands. So that's what this film is about. Now, certainly the first 2 parts of this film in The Fade are done very, very well. It plays much like an episode of TV's Law and Order. And although the German court system is very different from its American counterpart, which for me was very interesting. In the German courts, there are 3 judges. There's no jury. The victim's family gets representation in court, which I thought was very interesting because I thought it's the government versus the neo-Nazis. It's not the victim's family but she's represented in court, which I thought was quite interesting. And lawyers raise their hands when they want to address the court. So it's almost like, grade school. Your Honor, can I speak, sort of thing. Very interesting. Now, the film's final act disappointed me at any rate, because it ends up becoming like Death Wish, the 1974 film Death Wish, which apparently they've made into a new film starring Bruce Willis, I understand. It just came out in America a couple of weeks ago. And Katya becomes a vigilante. She takes justice in her own hands. It's not that it's not believable. Like, I can see, okay, she could do it. She's that kind of person that she could become a vigilante. I just thought it seemed like the lazy way out as far as writing is concerned. That it just seemed, okay, we've spent an hour dealing with this. We have a half hour left. Let's just, end it. She'll become a vigilante. So I didn't really I bought into it in one aspect and didn't buy into it in another. So the film, apparently, it won the best foreign language film at this year's Golden Globes. It was nominated as Germany's entry for the Oscars best foreign language film. It didn't make the shortlist, unfortunately, because I think the film had a lot of potential. It had good performances, but at the end, it just didn't deliver the goods. So all in all, I think it's above average, but not a great film. Certainly not as good as it could have been, and not one of Fatih Akim's best films or better films. So I wasn't too happy with this film. I would have preferred a different ending, but oh well, it is what it is. So both these films, Love, Simon and In the Fate, open today. Yeah, I'd say check them out. Certainly, you know what? I wouldn't run to the cinema. You know, if you want to go see Avengers, it's still playing. It's going to be here for a long time.
Okay.
But, you know, check it out. So those are the two films for this week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Howard Elias.